Welcome, lovely one, to the Meant for More podcast. My name's Lisa Clifford, and I am building the world's most empowering Meant for More movement, leading millions of heart-led purpose seekers from feeling insignificant to invincible. So I truly hope you enjoy this next episode. We have one of my greatest friends with us today, April Marsden. Now, April and I have known each other, we met at a SmartWorks event where I was the speaker. I was winging it then, thinking, when did we meet? And it's just dawned on me. And then somehow there was just something between us that just connected. And so what I know about April, that her credentials, shall I say, is that she's an architect. She's the regional chair of Women in Property. She's a fellow mountaineer explorer. We both laugh when we say that about ourselves. And firewalker. And what I love about April, whatever she does, she throws herself into 100%. April is somebody that plays all in, full out. Even this conversation that we are about to have, April has been getting the lighting ready, well, the natural daylight ready. She looks gorgeous, as you can see yourself. She wants to be right with her answers, but actually the only one question she knows is, when was that moment that you were meant for more? So, and I asked this, April, because I think life gives us so many opportunities to grow into, or to shed old stuff, or to be more fulfilled or more connected or have more meaning. And I do believe it starts with a little bit of a stirring in us, an ache, a kind of a bit of a knowing. And the jolts don't need to be big, and the changes don't need to be big either. But I think listening to the signs is valuable. So, my lovely, we'll pick anyone you like, but a moment in your life where you felt that you were ready for more.
So I think that moment, Lisa, was when I went to that SmartWorks event, and I heard you and I heard that other lady, Lisa, and what you said really resonated with me at that time, where I was in my life. I was a little bit stuck at work and in my personal life. I wanted to do more and be more involved, and I was giving, like you said, 100% at work. And I just was thinking, there needs to be something else for me, and where I can bring. It's not about me, because that's quite egocentric, but where I can do more for other people, really, and support other people. So you invited me along to one of your firewalks, the first firewalk I did, which was down in Norwich, I think, or somewhere like that.
Peterborough, yeah.
And it was a full day, and it was amazing. We did kind of showed ourselves how powerful we are, and how much strength we can have within us ourselves. It was a really, really gorgeous day, and it finished with a beautiful firewalk as the sun was setting, and it was just so lovely to meet some other people on that day. I think I met Angie, who came with us up the mountain, and there was a young boy and his father, and there was a few other ladies on there who all had really interesting personal journeys and stories to share, and they were all on a journey that was kind of fueled by change, I think, which you'd kind of helped instigate and bring into people as well. So I think that was probably the initial moment, and then I've sort of moved on from that, and sort of come to more of your firewalks, done a lot more reflective work myself, been quite introspective, and I'm a little bit involved in the kids and their sort of schools and things, trying to think about how I could help with that. But I was really struggling with that because I just don't have enough time. One of your firewalks, I did bump into somebody I knew in my industry, Jennifer Wynyard, and I did a session with Jennifer, which was where we had to pair up and sort of do some sort of like
goal setting.
Not goal setting. We like had to walk through the like we had to imagine ourselves in a scenario and walk through it. So we did that together, and then we kind of connected. And I think she was about to become in the next year the national chair for women in property.
Yes.
And then she invited me to come and join in Women in Property. And then before I knew it, I was on the committee and the next regional chair. And, you know, so it's interesting how these things grow and develop and evolve. And along that way, I've been involved in quite a few other bits and pieces to try and support people, whether it's through work, through where I work, or whether it's in my private life. Yeah, so it's kind of an ongoing journey.
You know what I noticed about you, April, though? You are open to possibilities. So with the connection with Jen, if you hadn't have been open, you wouldn't have seen that opportunity. You wouldn't have embraced it. When we first met at the SmartWorks event, you were open to. You're really open. I think that's such a brilliant quality. Never mind being open to going to Base Camp Everest. I mean, how that came about was hilarious because I think I was preparing to do a big presentation on behaviour profiling to 350 vets of all professions. And I'd put together this montage of pictures of who's Lisa underneath the coach, trainer, speaker. And I think there was the Kilimanjaro on there. I think Base Camp was on there, and Island Peak, and Decorate an Orphanage, building a house. And you'd put a comment on my post of, I've always wanted to go to Kilimanjaro. Was it that? What had you written? Can you remember?
I can't remember. I think it was Babe. I can't remember. I did say, I really want to I want to do that, or I'm thinking about, because I was thinking about doing it at the time. And I was looking into it, and I was like, can I find out about a bit more about this from you? And you were like, hold that thought.
Oh, no, it was, I think you just wrote something like, I've always wanted to do X, and I put underneath it, leave that with me. The next thing is, and then I had a call with you were the seed. You were absolutely.
Your picture was the seed.
I think if you're open to the size of which you are, life is showing you the direction. But because of you, I thought that is a brilliant idea. All you'd put is, I'm really interested in X, Y, or Z. And I spoke to the tour operator that I'd done those trips with and said, I'm thinking of taking a group. There'll be 10 of us. I didn't know who the 10 would be. What's like, because we'd just come out of lockdown. I just moved back to York, and I said, what country is likely to be open tomorrow, or Base Camp Everest? And so we went with Base Camp. Neither were open at the time when we were booking. And then I put you in the position that you were the most obliged to say yes to.
Yeah, I wasn't given a choice in not being able to go.
Everybody else was given a choice, but not April, because it was because of you that I booked it. But what I found inspiring, about you coming to Base Camp Everest was that I'd always known you to be working really hard. There not been enough hours in the day. I've known you to work in the middle of the night, once you've done all the children's stuff, and then try to get ahead with your work. And you were open as a mother, busy mother, and busy professional, to then going on a trip. And I know lots of women that, well, I guess would think, can't go until the kids have left home. I can't go until they've done their exams. And I love the way that you live your life and your kids are part of it, rather than you live your life around them, that they're in your life rather than you in them. I once heard my brother and sister-in-law speak about it that way, and rarely saw people parenting in that way. So, what was it about? What did you get out of base camp? What enabled you to go? And how did you feel during it about being away from home, other than relieved?
Yeah, having a break. So, what helped me, what enabled me to go? Well, I guess just making sure that I had people here who I could rely on, whether that was
Mm.
my husband or my family, and that, there's some pretty straightforward stuff when it comes to making sure children get to and from school. That was all done. So then, that kind of freed me up quite a lot. I'm also I like to think of myself as being quite a relaxed parent, so I'm not kind of stressing too much about things. So that obviously helped as well. So that was the main thing in terms of being a parent and being able to go away. Psychologically, I was, like I said, because I'm quite relaxed, I was fine. It wasn't like, I was going to space for 3 weeks or something. We were going, we were only going to Nepal for sort of 2 weeks. It was fine.
It was 2.5 weeks.
2.5 weeks. It was all good. And when I was there, it was just so nice to kind of just really have to work hard every day and just concentrate on what was coming to you on that day, whether it was climbing up and up and up and up and up and up. Lisa, I'm sure you remember the
I
worst day for
remember.
me.
I remember. Diula would say, "We go up, 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 and down, 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 and then up, 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 up."
And that was going up to Namche. I think, that just not having to worry about anything else and just concentrating, just putting one foot in front of the other. I'm not exactly an athlete by any stretch of the imagination. I'm overweight. I'm unfit. So I just had to concentrate and bring myself to that one point in time, that 1 second of every day, which was just really different for me because I'm always thinking about everything all at once. So just to sort of just focus on that one thing was actually really, yeah, it was just a really nice
It's a gift, isn't it?
holiday, a nice break, because it really was a break not to have to think about so many other things. And just putting myself in that physically challenging space, it was quite a thing, not being super fit and everything. So, having that sense of accomplishment as well and supporting other people on the journey, whether it was my best walking buddy, Rachel Flarin, or whether it was
Yeah.
people who potentially needed a bit of help when they weren't feeling very well in some of the stops. So yeah, no, it was just a great time of a group of us, a group of us women coming together and supporting each other as well as we did that journey, which was really nice. And to feel that kind of connection and, to have a different type of bonding with people. It's quite unique. So, yeah, no, I loved it. I loved it. I would always recommend that. But I think it would, it's obviously only because you took us, Lisa, and we all went with who we were with was just as important as doing the actual thing.
I think it's also that gift of only focusing on where you're putting your next step is so rare, isn't it? And it's as close to meditation as often we get. And it can be a form of meditation, putting one foot in front of the other and only having your focus on there rather than you can't really think of anything else when you're doing that, can you? It's so otherworldly and so stunning and breathtaking on a number of levels. Breathtaking because we're out of breath, breathtaking because of the altitude, and breathtaking because it is just, I always describe it as a beauty that my eyeballs cannot quite believe. The people, gorgeous people. But I think that focus of just one step in front of the other and actually being so well looked after.
I think
Because
that's it. I think the people were so kind and they didn't want anything. They didn't have anything. But, it was the full thing. It was, like you said, the setting, the beauty, the people. They looked after us. They really did, the guides, and it was the total package, really. But for me, I think that calmness as well and that sort of tranquility that we kind of don't have in our normal everyday lives. It was also quite spiritual for me, sort of, I made up little prayers and little poems in to like the river goddess, whatever it was, wherever we happened to be. And that kind of being in nature, we weren't like roughing it or anything. Well, we were to some degree, but we weren't sleeping in bivouacs.
Going to bed with your socks, a hat on, a balaclava. I mean, we weren't outside, but it was as cold as outside. Yeah, we were well looked after, but we weren't in hotels.
No, it was really, I know, from my own personal sort of perspective, it was a really mindful, spiritual trip. And I think it was quite life-changing as well, really, because I think it did, like you said, it was quite meditative, and it did sort of make you focus and sort of start reevaluating things on an evening and just accepting things for what they are as well, which was quite nice. Not to have to sort of think that you need to be up there, actually this is fine, this is just perfect as we are.
Yeah, you've got a real growth orientated mind, and to arrive in a place of peace of this reality is perfect as it is just such a gift, isn't it? I mean, when we are in a growth orientated mind, we're usually thinking about what can I learn, what can I see, how can I be better, and it's sometimes doesn't leave space for enjoying what is exactly as it is. That sentence in itself, this is just perfect as it is just the whole system feels like going, there's not enough moments like that, is there, where we're not either thinking that I'm doing this job, but I've got 4 more to do. So we're not really in the experience of it. And I think that's the beauty of base camp. And also what I loved about it was the preparation to be ready to go. I mean, I'd never been fitter, healthier, lighter. And so having a goal that requires you to show up every day, like for me, my mind was, I know exactly what's ahead, and I don't want to be carrying extra body weight and handling the altitude. So I think I walked 5 miles twice a day, did 100 squats every day, and was really mindful about drinking water and eating healthily. So for me, the trip was the 4 or 5 months preparation beforehand as well that was the gift. What was if you had to pick one favorite either part of the trip or moment in the trip, what would it be? Putting you on the spot now, so you give yourself time to think.
I think it was probably going over the highest footbridge there, because we were all scared of that. All scared of that bridge.
Well, there's gaps in it, isn't there? There's bits where it's worn and it's torn. So the netting that's there to keep you in case you fall, there's gaping great big holes in it.
It's dainty. It's like you said, it's hanging by a thread, and it's well used by every creature in person going across it. And I think that was just sort of, we went over it together. Do you remember? And that was just so nice to do that together. And just when we got to the other side, it was that feeling of doing it together and being there again for each other, and having that assurity that, it was all fine. And then I think the other thing was obviously getting to base camp and touching the rock. And you were like, we're just going to go and touch it. And we were all a bit kind of apprehensive, thinking there was going to be all these people there and stuff. And then I don't know what happened.
Well, what happened was, because on the way there, so for anybody that's not been to base camp, the pinnacle is having your photograph taken by the famous stone that's actually a new stone, because the other stone is, I think, got eroded with the earthquake and time. So having your photograph taken there, but as we were walking towards it, people that had been there coming away were saying, oh, there's an hour wait to have your photograph taken, it's really busy there. And so from that moment I thought, not for us, I'm going to visualize us getting straight through there. And I think I was right at the front, and I Sarah, who was our different travel leader, said, Lisa, do your thing. And I went, right, everybody, straight over, off we go. And I sat outside, and you and Rachel and everybody walked straight up to, and just something opened up where there wasn't an hour queue. We got to stand right there. We must have got about 20 minutes.
We did.
Of having our picture taken. So we had us taken as a group, and then we nominated a photographer who would just take one of us at a time there. And then the window closed where people were like, right, can we now have our photograph taken? But we were blessed. We weren't waiting, because you don't really want to be waiting there because it's cold. It's cold, and you've got that big trek back.
Yeah.
And there were moments on that big trek back where the path was eroding and the drop was quite a drop. Do you remember that bit where somebody left a note on the way back saying, this is not safe? Because it was just so heavily trodden, because it had been closed all the way through lockdown. And our window that we were there was the first, just the mountain had just opened up. So there was like thousands of people there.
You always say, Lisa, where focus goes, energy flows. And I use that saying a lot. And I think that was quite a key part of the way that you had to think when you were doing Base Camp Everest. And it's something that I think, for me personally, I've applied. And I actually tell people that I'm like, where focus goes, energy flows. If people start thinking negatively, I sort of try and steer them back around. So I think there's quite a few things that I've taken away from that trip, and I'm sure other people did, and I've applied them into the way that I live my life now, really, whether it's sort of being the regional chair for women in property and, having to sort of get messed around sometimes, or there's issues and things. So it's kind of staying calm and just dealing with that, or, whether it's sitting around the table at work and sort of making sure that, maybe we see things in a different way, or kind of make sure that we're don't sort of go on some kind of detour too much from our thoughts of where we need to be. Yeah, so I do, and even with my kids, I'm like, so no, it was a really good trip, and it really did influence me, and as a consequence, probably all those people around me to some degree. So for that, I'm forever grateful.
Oh, I'm grateful because you sowed the seed, and I just think how wonderful life is. Because I'm just wondering, what have you embraced in your life, because you've been so present and open to it and said yes? What other things can you think of that you've experienced as a result of not necessarily thinking in advance, I'm going to do that, but when it was presented to you, you said yes? Because I see that you do that, April. I don't know if you know it as a conscious part of your character or personality.
I know I don't know that consciously.
When you reflect back, you see that you do, because it's just such a lovely quality.
Yeah, I think I've probably, when I think about my life and the way that I've done things over time. I've sort of worked all over the country. I've travelled the world. I've been involved in quite a lot of other things, whether it's to do with charities or pushing different kinds of agendas in the workplace and things like that, whether it's ED&I or sort of thinking about sustainability and trying to encourage people to have a bit more of a broader vision sometimes as well. So I think these are all part of that kind of attribute, I guess, that kind of, wanting to be a part of something and sort of be adventurous, not just kind of sit around and, wait for things to happen to me. Take a little bit of control on that as well. Sort of be a little bit in the driving seat as much as you can be. I think it's important, and that does mean saying yes.
Do you
see where it goes?
Do you ever find yourself doing I think it was Richard Branson that once said it, say yes and work out the how later. Do you ever find yourself by nature, obviously not in your job at work, obviously not there, but do you ever find yourself having the attitude of, I want to do that, I don't know how, but I'm going to say yes now because the opportunity's now, and then I'm going to work really hard to work out my how?
Yeah, I don't really I'm just trying to think of an example, really. I think that's just something that I generally do, but I do that anyway. I have to say with most things. I'm just trying to think of something specific. But, I think some of us are more cautious in how we do life, whether it's thinking about getting married and having kids or where you're going to work. And I think the problem with that can be that if you start thinking about the how before you say yes or no, you probably will never do it.
Yeah.
So you've just got to do it. You've just got to do it, and you will, like you do with the visualization. When you imagine yourself in that role or in that situation, your mind believes you've been there and does it, and it creates the how. It creates the way there. And I think it's that kind of thing. So once you've said yes and you've predetermined what that outcome's going to be, then it's probably very highly likely that you'll make it happen. So yeah.
I agree. I guess, has there ever been anything though that you wish you'd said yes to, but you didn't because you just didn't trust yourself in the moment?
So I got offered a job once in Australia when I was travelling to work for an architect's practice there. And I was with my ex at the time. And I didn't take it. And actually, I'm glad I didn't take it because it didn't work out with him. My ex, that's why he's my ex. And also, there was quite a few things about Australia that I weren't really right for me. So trusting your gut as well and kind of doing what you feel deep within you. So sometimes that isn't always just saying yes for the sake of it, but
Well,
it's about knowing yourself enough to be able to trust your instinct to make that right judgment call. It's not always just about saying flippantly yes.
yes, absolutely. Sometimes saying no is an indicator that you're meant for more, isn't it? Because I think in your no, you had a gut instinct that things weren't going to work out with your ex, and therefore being over there might not be the most freeing place for you to be. What's your current meant for more moment? What's your current meaning you're connecting with?
So for me, it's kind of twofold. It's one in the workplace. We've done quite a lot of work in our practice as a senior team and as a business overall with all the managers. We've looked at finding our purpose, which is to grow better. So it's, a lot of other practices have purposes around creating environments and things like this, but ours is actually about growing as individuals and as a business, and learning about it's embracing that growth mindset really and how that affects the business in so many different aspects. And then the other sort of kind of way, if you like, I said it was twofold, is through the women in property stuff. A lot of people feel that there's a little bit of misunderstanding sometimes about what that movement's about. It's an organisation that's still really relevant because not in architecture, we've got pretty good ratios now with male and female representation. It's still not perfect, and there's still a lot of way to go there as well in terms of the way that women are treated sometimes in some of these industries. But in some of the professions, you've still only got sort of 5-10% women represented. So what we're trying to do in Women in Property is to create networking events so that you can go in and you're not kind of overfaced by a sea of, I don't know what I can say here on
Well,
this podcast, but
I
you've
think
got smiley faces, smiley female faces welcoming you in. It's not too it's not too daunting. It's inclusive. We want men to come as well to our events. People of all genders and of all backgrounds are welcome. But what we're trying to do is just improve the diversity in the construction industry. So we're doing it. It's happening. It's good, but it's relevant.
I always see women in property being a platform for women to mentor women because I do think that women are different to men. So I think it's valuable a woman mentoring another woman. And I think the mentoring is about how she's being, not just the doing. The doing the job is one thing, but how does a woman in today's way show up? I don't, not that you've said this, but I don't see it as women lacking confidence in front of men, which is something I once heard. at an accountant over Leeds Way was running a network. She decided to do an online network, and her business partner came along, and he said that he disagrees with women only networks, that women need to have the confidence to be with men. And that actually made me mad, because that's not the reason, as you know.
No.
I can feel your fire rising in you as I say, because it made me that was so judgmental, that I'm not saying all men, because there's some very articulate men out there that wouldn't think it, that he thought that women networked together because they were afraid or lacked confidence in front of men. So not the case. I think any man would agree that a woman's brain works differently to a man's brain. And so when a woman's been mentored by a man and by a woman, the mentoring style will be completely different, but also the mentoring information will be completely different. And I think quite often women get value from understanding how she can show up in a meeting, give value, hold her integrity, whilst not trying to mimic masculine traits.
Yes, 100%. I was just going to say that. You don't need to be a man. It's not a man's world, you know. And especially in this day and age, you know, we all talk about authenticity and about being able to bring your full self to the workplace or wherever you are. So that's, you know, as a business, that's what we do. And as women in property, that's what we advocate for. So, you know, you're absolutely right. Women are strong. They do things differently. They see things differently. And helping and supporting women to be themselves and to be what we do as well. We work quite a lot with men. So we want, and I've got some connections on LinkedIn that I follow, which are all about allyship. So I think it's a lot about educating men as well to understand that this woman, like that guy said to you, not, you know, there's a lack of confidence or something. That's not true. It's just because you're seeing the way potentially that a woman's been, because she's been more sensitive, maybe has been a lack of confidence. That's probably not the truth at all. She's probably just picking up on undertones of sort of people's emotions, or she can maybe feel some friction between people. So there's lots of reasons why a man might just take something at face value without really considering.
Or she's just being quiet and listening, taking it in. Yeah. Like I'm, you know, I'm going to use my 2 ears and my 1 mouth in ratio, and I'll see if I've got something of value to say.
Yeah.
It's fascinating, isn't it, the subject? So let's just talk briefly about you firewalking, because you make yourself available and not only come to every firewalk you possibly can, but also you love being there and helping support the event. And I'm so grateful that you have that in your heart to do, that spirit about you, and the, what's the word? What is the word?
I don't know, but I like doing it. I like supporting you. It feels great. Like, I can completely understand why you love that event and helping people step into whatever it is, the new version of themselves, or into a different future, or whatever it is, that's some kind of change or affirmity. Because it is a really magical evening to see how everybody embraces it slightly different, but it's quite touching and calming. And to be able to bring that into people's lives and support them with that, I think is a really gorgeous thing that you do. And it's just nice for me to help you with that.
Well, it just makes a difference having.
I lost you then.
It just makes a difference when you've got people there that love the fire, love the evening, love what it's about, and hold space for people as well as participating, that makes it possible for others as well. I just always feel so grateful that you love it. That's the word I think I'm looking for. I can't find another word, but that you love it, and that you go to so much trouble to be there. What do you think you've personally got out of walking over? It's not just the walking. As I'm saying it, I can feel you feeling into, it's not just the walking over the fire though, that's a part of it. What do you get out of it? Is that, can you put it into words, particularly for somebody that might be listening to this thinking, I just don't know why you do it?
So I really love coming to your firewalks, for all the reasons that we just said, that they're magical and spiritual and touching. Focus, they help you think about things that you want to let go of and leave behind. We go through that exercise, which is great because it just sometimes brings new things to the surface that maybe you didn't realize were there. And then, you've probably, most people, me included, go there with some ideas about potentially their new goals, maybe for the year ahead, or any changes that they might want to make. And I think that evening is, it can help you bring those goals to life through affirmations and through kind of support and that actual physicality of stepping on the fire and stepping into something. I mean, it's you're not stepping into a wall of flame. Into the fire. Don't think what I'm saying, but that whole transformational journey, it is quite meaningful. And I think what's nice is that whoever, you have a lot of people who go regularly, but you do have people who come for the first time at all of these firewalks, and the tone that is set kind of encourages them to feel more involved, more in that mindset as well. So they've kind of come maybe with no preconceptions, or maybe they have got some ideas about it. But I think everybody's in it together. And I think what happens during the whole evening and everything that you do with people leading up to the firewalk, it all just feeds into that greater whole of what that's about, and how they've got the power within themselves and the energy to really make transformation, and how they can actually do it as well. And some of it is physical, but some of it is, or a lot of it is mindset and where you are and what you think and how you're going to get there. So for me, I think it is about transformation, isn't it? An affirmation, but I think it's about connection as well. So there's a lot of people there, and we're all, you hold hands, you do a lot of work together in groups and in pairs. All barriers are off, everybody's equal. It's really just a really nice space to be in. And I think that's what people like as well. I think it's the space. I don't think it's necessarily the actual physical walk as well. Do you know what I mean? I think it's the whole thing.
I do. And as you're saying this, and I'm imagining it from your perspective, as you're saying it, I think it's a lot like the mountain, base camp. Your focus is only there. At the firewalk evening, it's the fire. We spend as much time around the fire as weather allows, but it's mesmerizing. It captivates us, doesn't it? It holds and commands our attention, which is very freeing from the monkey mind and the jumping from one thought to the next to the next. And nobody knows what's coming next, so they can't overthink or over prepare themselves, so they stay in the moment, which is the gift I like to give to people. And then also you being there and other people that like to come along and do the next layer and the next layer is so reassuring to the people that have never been before, that not only has somebody been before, but they want to come back.
Yeah.
And they choose to come back. And so, yeah, I think in hearing you describe it, it feels like a whole evening of meditate. I hadn't thought about it like this before. So just the reflection it's almost like a whole evening of meditation without actually sitting cross-legged, meditating with head slightly tilted, spine to the heavens, with mala beads in our hands, which is also a really lovely way to meditate. This becomes a meditation of decanting the mind and holding our focus. You've described it beautifully. So in closing, April, what would you say to anybody that has that feeling, that ache, that stirring, or even a whack around the head of, I know I'm meant for more, but specifically from a mother's, but there might be a mother, but feeling almost like I shouldn't want more. And the more doesn't have to be more money, bigger house. Doesn't have to be that kind of more. It can be, I want more connection or more purpose, or I want more space for me. What would you say, advice, tip, wisdom you would give, particularly to a mother who's knowing she's meant for more, but has the guilt attached to it?
So they need to come and speak to you, Lisa.
And that was £50 well spent.
No, I think it makes you a better mother if you can do something for you that's probably going to be purpose led. It doesn't have to be, but I do think that that's what makes us, most of us, feel fulfilled more. But I think it's important for your children to see you living a real life for you, and doing what you need to do, because they're going to be adults at some point and they become what they see.
I have to just recap that. So it's important for them to see you living a real life and they become what they see. So the life that you would hope your kids would live, this full, beautiful, courageous, limitless life, they have to see it lived already.
Well, it's good if they can.
Yeah,
it's not always possible, but yeah, I think it's important to be the role model for your daughters or your sons, and for them to see that it's important for everybody to look after themselves and take care of themselves, and do what they need to do, as well as just be sort of a mum and a dad or whoever. It's important for children to see that.
I love that. And I do think you're so inspiring with your openness to opportunity and the access to opportunity you have as a result of it. And the way you are not rigid in your living, because I think that's what enables you to be so open to opportunity, because you make things work. You might have a plan, you might have a commitment, but you see an opportunity when it comes in and you think, right, how can I make this work? Rather than the answer is no, because I'm in this rigid structure of commitment. I see you always follow up on your agreements. You always keep your agreements. So I'm not suggesting for a moment that you weigh up. I've had this opportunity come in and it's better than what I've already decided, but it's how do I make it all work rather than say no. And if you can say yes, you do. And I find that such an inspirational way of living. That your life isn't marked by big milestones all the time and gaps in between, that your life is the flow of inspiration. So that's how I see it, April. And
it's very kind.
yeah, thank you so much for all your time, your wisdom, your perspective, your advice. I've loved our conversation as always, but I'm lucky because I get to have a conversation with you anytime I like.
Yep, and
So
me too.
Thank you, lovely.
Thank you, Lisa.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode. If you would like to be involved in the Meant for More movement, then please drop me a line at lisa@lisaclifford.co.uk. Whether that's you're interested in being on the podcast, taking part in any of the trainings, or would just love to know how you can help empower others, then let's have a conversation. Thank you for listening, and we'll connect again very soon.